The air was thick with the electric tang of ionized metal, a scent that clawed at the senses like static in the lungs. Smoke spiraled from fractured ships suspended midair, their once glossy hulls now jagged with tears, and a crimson sun spilled a lazy light over a battlefield that seemed more a surreal painting than real life. The human soldier moved cautiously, stepping over jagged debris and sideways glancing at the sky, which flickered with sudden streaks of lightning that hummed with a curious resonance. His armor, scratched and dented from skirmishes he barely remembered, squeaked under each movement. He muttered, "Great, just what I needed. Another planet that hates humans." The words barely left his mouth before a fragment of wreckage rolled over, pinning his leg with cruel inevitability. Panic clawed at him, the kind that made his chest tighten and his vision blur. He tried to lift the debris, gritting his teeth as fingers scraped metal and blood mixed with the alien dust. The universe was vast, and yet, somehow, the only thing that mattered in this moment was that his ankle was likely broken, and gravity, of all things, was actively conspiring against him. He groaned, "Well, at least it's dramatic." He coughed through the dust, already imagining the story his comrades would tell. Human soldier pinned by space junk, heroically screaming about how gravity is a jerk. Then, just as he was certain he would be crushed, or eaten, or both, a shadow passed over him. A figure moved with impossible fluidity through the chaos, boots never touching the jagged ground, gliding instead as if the battlefield were a pool of water. She stopped above him and he saw her, human enough to be familiar, strange enough to be unforgettable. Her long ears, tapering elegantly behind her head, twitched like antennae sensing the static in the air. Her eyes, green as oxidized copper, held the weight of worlds that were already fading, and yet they carried a spark of mischief that immediately made him suspicious. Whoever she wasn't the type to waste time. "You really shouldn't get yourself trapped under ships," she said, her voice calm, almost teasing, as if he were a toddler who had wandered too close to the edge of a cliff. "It's unbecoming for someone who claims to be a soldier." "I beg your pardon," he said, catching his breath, one eyebrow quirked in disbelief. "I've survived 3 planetary invasions, 5 asteroid storms, and don't even get me started on space rats, and you're lecturing me about posture." Her lips quirked, a hint of a smirk playing across her face. "You humans have a flair for dramatics," she said, crouching slightly, the long ears twitching again, picking up vibrations he couldn't even register. Then, without another word, she extended her hands toward the debris. The metal trembled, shivering as though alive, and lifted itself slowly, inch by inch, until the soldier was free. The release sent him sprawling on the ground, coughing, yet alive. You just," he stammered, looking at her as if she were a trick of the mind. "You just lifted an entire shuttle with your bare hands." "I did not use my hands," she said, arching a brow, and a faint, sarcastic smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "And calling them bare is technically incorrect. The gloves are highly advanced nanoalloys designed for multidimensional interaction." He blinked. "Right, nanoalloy gloves, sure, I'll put that in my report." She didn't correct him further, simply gesturing for him to stand. The soldier noticed, finally, the faint hum that accompanied her movements, like the echo of some ancient, cosmic instrument. Every step she took seemed to bend the air slightly, creating a subtle shimmer around her. "You humans," she muttered, shaking her head, "always scrambling into trouble and thinking it's a personal accomplishment." He grinned despite the pain shooting through his leg. "Hey, at least I'm consistent." The alien woman studied him with those eyes that were too knowing, too old for her youthful appearance. "Your species has a peculiar way of surviving," she said, her tone a mixture of curiosity and faint amusement. Then more softly, almost to herself, she added, "For now, you'll survive because I choose it." He caught the edge of sorrow in her voice but chose to ignore it. "Well, that's generous. I like this world already." She snorted. "Do not mistake my generosity for sentimentality, human. This planet does not favor your kind." I am simply practical. Practical, he thought, standing on one leg and leaning on a shard of ship's hull, practical in a universe that could kill him without blinking. He decided it was probably safer to keep his thoughts to himself, especially when practical aliens looked like humans with spectacularly long ears. As they moved through the battlefield together, he couldn't help but notice the strange flora and fauna around them. Flowers that shimmered like liquid glass bent away from their feet, while small, spherical creatures rolled along the ground, emitting soft musical tones when they collided. The alien woman moved among them effortlessly, her presence commanding the strange ecosystem in ways he couldn't yet understand. At one point, a fragment of debris floated lazily toward them. He flinched and she flicked her hand, sending it spinning harmlessly into the air, before muttering something that sounded like a joke in her language. It was immediately contagious. He laughed, half in disbelief, half in relief. You laugh too easily, she said, though there was no malice, only an almost imperceptible warmth. And you save lives too easily, he countered, wincing as he adjusted his injured leg. It's almost suspicious. Are you some sort of intergalactic fairy godmother? She considered the joke for a moment, then said dryly, If I were, I would have left you under that shuttle to teach a lesson about humility. The soldier laughed again, pain and all, because somehow in this chaos, amidst collapsing ships, alien storms, and interstellar danger, he felt safe. Not invincible, not untouchable, but alive. And that, at least for now, was enough. She glanced at him, a flicker of something unspoken crossing her long ears and sharp features, and he realized that her calm was not just skill, not just control, it was sacrifice. Something about this woman, this long-eared warrior from a world on the brink of collapse, carried the weight of a universe he could barely comprehend. He decided, with that mix of courage and foolhardy instinct humans were famous for, that he didn't care. He would follow her. For better or worse, he was trapped in her orbit now, and judging by the faint humor still lingering in her expression, he suspected she might enjoy it. The ship that carried them through the fractured stars was more alive than mechanical, humming in low, musical tones, as if it understood the precarious nature of its passengers. The human soldier leaned against the polished console, his leg still throbbing from the earlier crash, and stared out at the swirling colors of a nearby nebula. The gases twisted in impossible spirals of violet and gold, occasionally sparking with tiny bursts of lightning that danced like fireworks. He muttered to himself, "Remind me never to complain about Earth weather again." The alien woman moved gracefully across the deck, her long ears twitching at the faintest vibration, as if she could hear the thoughts of the ship itself. She paused mid-step, glancing at him with a smirk that suggested both amusement and exasperation. "Humans really do obsess over trivialities," she said, her voice calm but carrying that undertone of teasing that made him simultaneously frustrated and intrigued. "The weather on your home planet is weather. Here, a storm can literally eat your soul." "A minor difference," he replied, trying to make light of it, though he winced slightly as he shifted his weight. "I've survived literal death storms before, mostly from other humans, but you get my point." She raised an eyebrow, an almost imperceptible twitch of her long ears accentuating the gesture. "You have an impressive record of self-destruction then," she said. Her words were dry, but there was a spark in her eyes, a subtle humor that made him grin despite the pain in his leg. Their journey took them through sectors of space where the rules of physics seemed negotiable. On one planet, the atmosphere itself responded to thoughts, painting the sky with colors that mirrored emotions. The soldier, skeptical at first, found that when he tried to think of something cheerful, the clouds turned soft pink and gold, while frustration painted jagged streaks of crimson and black. He pointed at the sky. "Well, that's unsettlingly cheerful." The alien woman chuckled softly, though her lips never fully curved into a smile. "It is unsettling," she agreed. "To have your mind mirrored in the sky. Humans are fragile in that way." He turned to her, eyebrow raised. "Fragile? That's rich coming from someone who just lifted an entire shuttle minutes ago. Her ears twitched, an almost imperceptible sigh passing over her features. Strength is irrelevant if your world collapses beneath you, she said quietly, her gaze distant for a moment. Then she glanced back at him, sharper now. And you, human, will be of no use if you dwell on the fragility of others. Humor, distraction, survival, that is all that matters right now. He grinned, more to ease the tension than to argue. So basically, shut up and follow you. Precisely, she said, though the corner of her mouth hinted at the faintest amusement. Though it would be prudent if you stopped whining about it. In another sector, they encountered a station entirely run by sentient holograms, figures flickering between humanoid shapes and abstract fractals. The soldier tried to joke, "Great, just what I needed, AI with opinions. Can they give me a latte?" The alien woman rolled her eyes. "Do you humans think the universe exists to serve your caffeine addiction?" "Not all the time," he said, smirking, "just most of it." She didn't reply, merely guiding him through the holographic corridors with a fluid grace that contrasted sharply with his clumsy, gravity-dependent movements. The holograms, curious and playful, projected illusions around them, turning the hallway into floating staircases, rippling water, and even an occasional image of a dancing jellyfish. The soldier stumbled at each turn, grumbling under his breath, while the alien woman simply flicked a finger to bend the holograms back into harmless forms, muttering something about overgrown children. As days passed, their bond grew in small, unexpected ways. He learned how her long ears allowed her to perceive energy fluctuations and emotional currents, while she discovered that humans had a stubborn, almost ridiculous resilience that sometimes bordered on genius. One evening, drifting through a quiet sector of deep space, the soldier tried to make her laugh. "You know, I read somewhere humans evolved from monkeys. Any chance your people evolved from giant rabbits?" Her ears twitched sharply, her expression carefully neutral. "Humans are absurd," she said finally, "but your absurdity is tolerable." He laughed outright, leaning against the rail of the observation deck. "Tolerable, huh? That's high praise coming from a superhero with ears like satellite dishes." "Satellite dishes are inadequate," she replied, eyes glinting. "They do not capture the subtleties of interstellar anomalies, cosmic harmonics, or human stupidity." He grinned. "Well, at least I'm contributing to your education." Their travel wasn't without danger. Rogue mercenaries hunted them through asteroid fields where gravity fluctuated like liquid, and creatures of energy and shadow lunged from the void, curious or hungry, or sometimes both. Each confrontation tested them, but always she was calm, calculating, the human soldier struggling to keep pace while cracking jokes at the most inopportune moments. "Hey," he shouted once as they dodged an energy beast, "if I survive this, can I put interstellar gymnast on my resume?" She snorted, shaking her head though her eyes betrayed amusement. "Perhaps," she said, "if you survive at all, human." Despite the constant danger, moments of humor, mischief, and even quiet admiration punctuated their journey. One night, under a sky of twin moons and drifting meteorites, the soldier asked quietly, "Why are you helping me, really? This seems insane." Her ears twitched, picking up the faint hum of the ship as if it whispered the answer. She tilted her head, green eyes glinting. "Because practical necessity sometimes aligns with sentiment. And because, apparently, I enjoy your company." He laughed, a sound that echoed through the quiet deck, shaky but sincere. "That's the nicest insane thing I've ever heard." And yet beneath the laughter, a subtle tension hummed. Each use of her abilities, each detour through the dangerous cosmos, chipped away at the stability of her home world. The soldier could sense the weight she carried, though she never spoke of it directly. He decided it wasn't his place to pry. He would simply follow, joke in hand, and hope it would be enough to make the universe bearable. By the time they reached the edge of the sector, where the stars thinned and the shadows of abandoned planets loomed, the soldier realized that surviving was no longer the only thing on his mind. Between laughter, danger, and strange cosmic phenomena, he had begun to understand something extraordinary. That in a universe filled with chaos and death, he had found someone worth risking everything for. And judging by the faint warmth in her voice and the twitch of her ears, perhaps she felt the same. The alien woman glanced at him, a fleeting smile crossing her features before turning back to the path ahead. "Prepare yourself, human. The worst is yet to come, but try to behave." He saluted with a crooked grin. "Yes, ma'am. Worst-case scenario, I'll just blame the aliens." She snorted softly, and for the briefest of moments, the war-torn void of space felt almost like home. The star system stretched before them like a fractured jewel, each planet a shard of brilliant color, spinning lazily in the void. The human soldier felt a mix of awe and dread, his injuries long forgotten in the adrenaline of the moment. The alien woman moved ahead of him, her long ears twitching constantly, sensing the faintest pulse of energy, the faintest echo of danger. She paused at the edge of a crater rim, green eyes scanning the horizon where the core of her world, the heart of the planet she called home, throbbed with unstable energy. "Looks unstable," the soldier said, attempting levity but failing to hide the tension in his voice. "Kind of like my love life back on Earth." She shot him a look that could have frozen stars. "Your love life is irrelevant," she said, though the faint twitch of her lips betrayed the slightest amusement. "Focus on survival." He grinned despite the fear gnawing at his gut. "Right, survival, that's why I got into this. Cosmic danger, alien superpowers, and sarcastic elves with giant ears." She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she extended her hands, and the space around them shimmered as she activated a series of interdimensional anchors, thin, silver threads of energy that stretched from her fingertips to the planetary core. The planet trembled beneath them, clouds of plasma spinning into impossible vortices, and the soldier's stomach lurched. "You're going to do what?" he asked, squinting at the shimmering threads. "I will stabilize the planetary core long enough for you to escape," she said calmly. "After that, everything collapses." He stared at her. "Wait, everything like your whole world?" "Yes," she said simply, as if the concept of losing everything were mere paperwork. Then, with a glance at him, she added, "Humor me. Pretend you understand the weight of this." He laughed, a nervous, shaky sound. "Sure, let me just. I'll pencil that in between dodging space lasers and surviving interdimensional mercenaries." She didn't answer. Instead, she began her work, threads of light weaving in and out of the planet, stabilizing the fractures in the core. The ground beneath them quaked violently, and molten rivers of plasma flowed like liquid fire. The soldier held onto a jagged rock, trying not to scream as chunks of the surface broke away. Yet through it all, the alien woman moved with the grace of someone untouched by fear, her long ears catching every vibration, every warning from the unstable world. Suddenly, a fleet of mercenaries appeared, their ships dark and angular, weapons charging with deadly precision. "You didn't tell me about these guys." The soldier shouted, ducking behind a floating fragment of rock. She flicked her hand, bending space itself to create a shimmering barrier that redirected the incoming blasts. "They are a nuisance," she said dryly. "Focus on surviving instead of complaining." He ducked again, rolling under another volley. "I thought I was good at this." "You are remarkably average," she replied without looking at him, twisting her body to absorb another volley of plasma, her long ears twitching in perfect sync with the flow of energy. For hours they battled the mercenaries while she stabilized the planet. He realized something remarkable. The alien woman wasn't just strong, she was relentless. Every attack, every impossible calculation, was done with the precision of a mind that had long accepted sacrifice as inevitable. And yet, amidst the chaos, she occasionally muttered dry jokes under her breath, just enough to make him laugh, just enough to remind him that there was still life in the universe worth living for. Finally, the threads of light held. The planet's core hummed, a high-pitched resonance that vibrated through the soles of his boots. The mercenaries, realizing their advantage had vanished, retreated into the shadows of space with a hiss of plasma engines. He stumbled toward her, trying to catch his breath. "You did it," he said, voice full of awe. "You saved me. You saved me." She looked at him, her green eyes softening for the first time. "I did not save you because of sentiment," she said, though the faintest quiver betrayed her resolve. "I saved you because it was necessary. The rest is consequence." He frowned, then grinned sheepishly. "Consequence, huh? Sounds like my kind of philosophy. Except, I prefer less planetary destruction with my life lessons." Her lips twitched, almost a smile. "You are irritatingly human," she said, "and I will miss it." He blinked, the realization dawning. "Wait, miss it?" "Yes," she said simply, turning to face the rapidly destabilizing edge of the planetary core. "I cannot leave this anchor. If I release it now, the planet and I will be gone." He tried to protest, stepping toward her. "There has to be another way. We've survived everything so far, don't." She interrupted him with a gentle shake of her head. "No human has ever survived my world and me without a cost. Humor me one last time. Make your escape and live. Remember me by laughing, not by mourning." He swallowed hard, his throat tight. "This is unfair," he muttered, though he couldn't stop the humor that escaped despite the fear. "Really unfair. You're basically leaving me with the universe's most sarcastic ghost." Her long ears twitched, a final acknowledgement of his joke. "Precisely. Farewell, human, do not cry, I find it inefficient." He watched as she merged with the threads of light, her figure dissolving into radiant energy that surged into the core. The planet trembled violently, a final roar echoing across space. Then, a blinding flash and silence. When his vision cleared, the planet was gone, replaced by drifting shards of cosmic debris glittering in the void. She was gone too, and yet somehow, in the residue of light and energy, he felt her presence, a lingering pulse of warmth and humor that refused to vanish. Days later, the soldier floated through a new sector, a small ship now his own, carrying what remained of her technology and a few keepsakes, a folded piece of shimmering fabric that had once